I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTrackHere.com, and today we're going to do a Yosh Fender Eliminator install on the 2017 STG Yamaha R6 Project Bike. Okay, brand new R6. Man, you can't ride around with this thing on there. Look at this. This is horrible. This is so hideous. So you got to get a Fender Eliminator kit. In this video, I'm going to install the Yosh Fender Eliminator. I've done multiple Yosh Fender Eliminator installs over the years on different bikes, and I've always been happy with the end result. That has not changed for the 2017 and up R6. They did a nice job. It fits really well. The installation itself is straightforward. There are some options with the kit as it comes right out of the box. They provide brackets that allow you to reuse your stock rear turn signals. That's what I chose to do. These are cool LED rear turn signals. They're pretty low profile at the end of the day. And with their kit, I was able to install them and get that factory look. If you don't want to use the OE turn signals, you could leave the brackets off. You could get an integrated tail light for the back, right? Have your signals integrated in there, have all the wiring up in here. The plate light itself, if you don't want to use that, you don't have to bolt that on. You would then once again leave the wiring up inside the tail so you have a more clean stealth look. The plate frame, you can choose whether or not you want to run that as well. So lots of options with it. Great fit overall. If this is something you're interested in for the R6 specifically and you want to see what it took to install it, just watch the rest of the video. If you have a different bike, the end result is very, very similar with Yosh. From model to model to model. They keep it pretty clean. A lot of the stuff that you see here conceptually just moves forward from bike to bike. It's a great piece, and it's possible we already have an install video for it on our YouTube channel or our website. So there you have it. This is the Yosh Fender Eliminator. I'm Brian Van, Sportbike Tracker. Okay, the packaging and instructions. Yosh does a great job here. The instructions are very thorough and complete. There are no color images, but they do have diagrams, very thorough and complete. It was packaged great, no damage to anything. They use a real modular design here. This is the main frame of the bracket. Here is the license plate light. This thing's LED, it's really cool, right? That is an aluminum bracket, very sweet. You don't have to install that if you don't want to. The turn signal mounts, these are optional. If you don't want to put them on, you want a clean design, you've got some built-ins or something, you do not have to install these. You could leave the pieces off. As it's all assembled, it all comes together. It even includes a cool plate frame. It's very modular. It all bolts together. You get a good, clean look. Okay, we're going to open up by removing the passenger pylon and the rider seat. You need the key to remove the passenger. 5mm T-handle to get your rider seat off. We're going to remove the trim panel that goes in between the rider and the passenger seat. There are 4 push pins. Got to depress the center to release it. You hear a click and pull up. We'll reuse all these stock fasteners. Okay, and that slides right out. You can see I've already got the battery tender harness installed. Okay, now we're going to unplug the turn signals and the license plate light connectors. Your turn signals are both right here. You want to press in on the center. Show you right here. You'll hear an audible click once you flex that enough to release it. Then go ahead and pull up. Like so. We will reuse both of the OE turn signals. These are LED signals, just like we had on the R1. I think they look pretty cool stock. Really don't see a lot of need to replace them. Here are your license plate light connectors. Separate those. Okay, now we're ready to unbolt the actual fender itself. Before we do that, we're going to make just a little bit more room by removing this bracket. It's going to give us a little better access to the fasteners that hold that stock fender in place. Take the two fasteners out. These are the bike side connectors for your turn signals. You can go ahead and if you want to slide those out of there. There's your tool kit. And now we've got lots of room to work with so we can remove the stock rear fender. Okay, as I got a little further into it, it looks like the nuts are actually part of that aluminum bracket. And we do not need to remove those. There is a little Loctite that was put on this from the factory because heaven forbid that stock fender falls off the bike and kills somebody behind you. And that was the noise you heard there. We're going to save the fasteners as well as these really cool dog bone washers. We're going to reuse those when we install that new Yosh Fender Eliminator. Okay, there you have it. I've got the fasteners out, as you can see now, and I didn't realize this beforehand because these did not look like they were part of it. The nuts are actually fixed right to the bracket that holds this gigantic rear fender. Now we need to disassemble the turn signals from it, and we're going to clip the harness for the license plate light about 6 inches back from the terminal ends. Okay, this part's pretty self-explanatory, but we're going to go ahead and show you regardless. This is your license plate light. I'm just going to snip this. Let's measure off about 6 inches. And we'll clip that. We're going to reuse that. Okay, now we want to remove the rear turn signals. Remember, the white connector is for the right side turn signal, brake side. Black connector is for the left side, clutch side. To get the turn signal stocks off, we need to release this keeper. It's going to make more sense once I get one of these out. You can see right now I'm using a flat bladed screwdriver to flex the turn signal stock enough so I can get behind the keeper and pop it out. We are going to reuse these, so you want to be careful. You don't want to break anything. It's going to be a lot easier to illustrate once I've removed one. Okay, once we have the keeper removed, we need to now flex the turn signal stock just enough that we're able to get it to pass through the other side of the stock fender. Putting a little bit of pressure on it on the other side so that it starts to slide through like so. Pass this all through. I'll give you a good look at this right now so you can see how this works. The warmer this is, the more it's going to flex. So you can see we've got a combination of rubber and plastic here. You don't want to put too much pressure on this and destroy it. Here is that keeper. Effectively, when it's all put back together, you have this tab that is slid into that slot there on both sides. When that's in there, this thing is held firmly. You're good to go. So take your time with this, make sure you don't break them. Okay, the license plate light. Very important step here. We're going to feed that harness through the main bracket for the fender eliminator, like so. Get that bad boy into position. We're going to use just the tiniest little bit of blue Loctite on these fasteners. And then we'll get each started before I tighten one down, okay? Small fasteners do not require a ton of torque, just enough. And then we'll let the Loctite do its job from there. Okay, so that's nice, clean design. Now, we need to connect this to the OE harness end. They have supplied butt connectors. Those are good too. I have some shrinkable ones here, and we're just going to kind of upgrade to those, if you will. These are my preference. What I'm going to do here, and this is something that I'll do anytime I have a situation where I'm using a real small gauge wire and it's not occupying enough space in the center of the butt connector, I'll strip back a little further, like you see here. Okay, I'm going to fold it so I make it a little thicker, so when I slide it in there and I crimp, it's going to grab much better. I'm going to grab on it and check it. Good tension. Repeat the process. These shrinkable butt connectors are available at just about any hardware store, right? Worth its own salt. And what's nice about these is you apply just a little bit of heat to them and they will seal. Pretty much a weather-tight seal, and that's just going to help you avoid issues as the bike ages. Check that. Even though the Yosh plate light is polarity sensitive, okay, it has to be polarity correct, you don't need to worry about the OE connectors because they are the same. The terminal ends are the same. If when you put everything together it doesn't turn on right away, switch the two connectors and you'll be good to go. Alright, we'll crimp this down and then we'll shrink the connectors. The taping I'm doing right now, this is for aesthetics only. It just looks better if it's all blacked out. That way, if any of this is exposed, you know, it looks consistent, right? But we've already sealed it up by using those shrinkable butt connectors. If you want to use the ones that Yosh supplies, you know what, at the end of the day, it's really not a big deal. It's not like this is a submarine or anything. I have these here in stock in my toolbox, and that's why I chose to use them. So there you have it. Now we've got the license plate light installed. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I got there. Let's grab the Yosh turn signal mounting bracket. It's designed to work with your OE signals. If you want to use aftermarket, they do sell an accessory bracket that has a hole for those to pass through. Okay, once I've got that fed through, so I've got the retainer passed through. This is a process, okay? I want to lube this up just a little bit. Use some Maxima SC1. It's got a little silicone in it. We've got hard plastic and we've got rubber. This is what interfaces with that metal bracket. It needs to be able to absorb vibration so you don't crack and or damage the turn signal. Get the bracket lined up like so. What I want to do is I want to just get the more narrow end started like that. I grab a pair of needle nose pliers, okay, and just pull that into the groove and just get this thing started. From there, I'm going to compress the rubber a little bit. Once you get this thing to dig in, you'll be in good shape. But until you do, be patient. Draw that over. Kind of compress. You see what I'm doing there? I've got a little downward pressure. Now that's starting to slot in there real nice. I'm going to get a flat-bladed screwdriver and use this to compress it just a little bit. And once you get enough of it in there, it's going to grab hold and you'll be able to discontinue the use of the pliers. And I'm pretty much there now. That rubber's pretty dense. It's not super pliable. You know, if you had a heat gun or maybe your wife's hair dryer, she'd love that, right? Go ahead and pull that out and warm it just a little bit. That would help. I'm doing this assuming that you don't have access to that stuff. And you want to work your way around this until you get the entire thing to pass through, and we're just about there now. I think this is the moment in the video where you guys know we don't stage this stuff, man. We're actually doing the work while we're filming the video. And there are parts where, you know what, you're going to struggle a little bit. That is normal stuff. This is a real tight fit right here. The key with this is don't lose your patience. Okay. And just about there. You'll also have the advantage of not having a gigantic cameraman who stands right in your light because he's trying to get the shot. Okay, now you can see I've got that almost all the way through. I'm just going to kind of manipulate it just a little bit more. Make sure that that bracket is securely in the channel. I'm going to get Steve one of those flashlights that has a strap and you wear it on your head like a hat. So that way, next time, I can see what the hell I'm doing. And hopefully it'll help prevent stabbing myself in the hand with a screwdriver while I'm trying to get the OE turn signal on. There you go. That's that. So don't be afraid to struggle with that a little bit. If you have something to warm the rubber, do it. Don't overdo it. Warm it. It'll make it just a little more pliable. Okay, now we're going to start to bolt this thing together. It's very modular. I've got his plate here. Be able to pass through that hole. Okay. From there, we are going to slide over the actual plate mount. Now we have our turn signal, and we want to make sure we put the right one on the right side of the bike. Get this all into position. I'm going to put the washers on here. Good quality hardware. These are all Nylock nuts, so there's no need to put any Loctite back here. Once I get this side done, we'll go ahead and grab the other turn signal and get that mounted on as well. Okay, got both sides on. Before I head over to the bike, I'm not going to tighten these all the way. I'll run them down just a little bit so that I'm able to still manipulate this, get it lined up just right when it's on the bike. The right place to do that is on the motorcycle and not right here. That way we can get it all squared up nicely. So I'm going to run these down a bit, and then we're going to head over to the bike and install it on the tail section. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pass all the wiring through the hole in the center of the Yosh Fender Eliminator bracket, like so. There's our turn signals. Now we've got our plate light. And from here, I'm going to feed these up and through the hole on that subframe. Got our plate light. Pass that through, like so. Really important here when you bolt this up to the bike that you make sure you are not pinching any of the wiring. We're going to reuse the stock fasteners and the stock dog bone washers. I'm going to show you that as soon as I get this thing bolted up. Cool little tip, you've only got 2 bolts in right now. I've got 2 bolts with that one dog bone washer, and I'm rotating the fender bracket, and that is going to hold the bolts in place and allow me to start the nuts. So I just kind of rotate it a little bit. Might need to manipulate the harness. And once you get both of these started, you can just let it hang freely. Here are those 2 stock fasteners, as well as that dog bone washer. Slide these into position. This tail section looks a lot like the R1, man. I mean, this is so similar working on this bike. Reminds me a lot of working on the R1. Same thing, come under here. Just get these started. Like so. Now we need a T-handle. And a 10 mil wrench and or ratchet. We'll get all these started, okay? I'm not gonna tighten any of them. I'm gonna get them all just to the point where they're seated, but I can still move the bracket itself around, okay? Like that, before I torque anything. Do that on the other 2. Then I'm going to lift the bike up so I can get a good look at it and make sure I've got everything lined up real nice before I apply final torque. Okay, got the bike lifted up a little bit so I got a better perspective here. Just want to look at the bracket itself, and I like that right there. Got a ratchet with a 10 mil socket. So we're going to finish torquing them from below. Make sure you hit all these evenly, and of course double check once you've made your first pass. Okay, I've got the main body of the bracket torqued. Before you go any farther, okay, we've got electrical connectors here. We've changed some wiring, manipulated stuff. Before you button this thing up, what I want you to do is I want you to plug everything in and make sure it works, starting with the turn signals and then the plate light. It's a lot easier and a lot less frustrating to address issues you've created, if you've created any, before you torque everything down. Okay, plate lights a win, so I got lucky and plugged those in. There is my left. Cancel that. There is my right. All right, we're good, we're a win. We can turn the key off. We're gonna lift the bike up a little bit. Now I'm gonna torque the fasteners around the plate. All right, now let's go ahead and torque the rest of the fasteners. If you wanna come around the backside, Steve, I wanna just show you real quick something I want people to look for. You wanna get the plate frame centered with this main bracket here. Make sure the gap on each side is equal. So we'll start there. I'm gonna put a little bit of torque to each of the fasteners on the top. Got that nice and even. Now we're just gonna run each of them down. There's no need to go crazy here, okay? You don't need to crush the license plate in there or anything, because these fasteners have that nylock insert in them and the nuts, so they're not gonna come loose. Built-in Loctite. Beyond that, they're also not huge fastener, so there's no reason to go crazy on the torque. Okay, little finishing touches, not included, but this is stuff that I have. It's a little wire conduit, little plastic wire conduit. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a section of this fed up in through there. Okay, this is just gonna be a cool little finishing touch. Add a little professionalism to our install, if you will. Take a minute and get this into position. And then I'll trim it once I've determined a good length. All right, the wire's all tucked into here, and then we're going to secure this. Totally optional, you know what, you can use the supplied cable ties and still get a real nice end result, but we want to give this kind of a factory look and appeal, so we're going to go just a little bit farther with it. All tucked in there real nicely. Use a little electrical tape, maybe a couple of cable ties, and we'll be good to go. Okay. So I've got the conduit secured in place. I used 2 little cable ties just to make sure that's good. And then I took one of the supplied cable ties from Yosh and I wrapped it around here just to pull the harness back. So especially when the bike's on the ground, it's going to give you that real low profile concealed look. All right, we'll go ahead and plug in the turn signal connectors now. We'll clean up all the routing once we have everything bolted in place. Remember, this also helps to hold your tail light in there. Bolt this back down. Your goal should always be, when you get done with this, you want this to be as close to factory as possible. You know, the reality is anytime you modify the motorcycle from its stock OEM state, there will be some variables. You know, you're gonna have to chase a couple things, reroute a few things to get it to turn out the way you want it to get that awesome result that we're all looking for. Okay, now I'm gonna take a minute and decide how I want to route these. I think this is going to be the way to go here. Just fair amount of space to work with back here. Take advantage of that. That looks pretty good. I'm going to grab a cable tie and use that to tidy all this up. I would have to say that looks pretty darn good right there. I'll trim the tail off that cable tie. All right, this is the catch for the passenger seat. Slip that in there. Got a little trim panel to put back on. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and reinstall this little trim panel. Get all the tangs back in place. Kind of get it snapped in place before you get the clips back in. You'll know once it's there, once you're ready for the fasteners. And we're reusing the OEM push pins. Show you that in more detail on the second one. Just go ahead and push back up. Like that. Now it's disengaged. You're able to reinstall. Seat it. Push down on the center until you hear and feel a click. Snug this bracket. And we're ready to put the seats back on. Okay, when you're reinstalling the rider seat, really important you get this tang to slide under here. So begin by guiding that in, a little downward pressure, kind of pull up on it. You can feel that you're in the right spot. Good to go. Grab the OE fasteners for the seat, fold up the ear on the back of the seat, get each of them started. And then torque them down. Okay, it is installed. It looks great. I really love the Yosh Fender Eliminators. They do a nice job with the engineering. It's a complete kit. It comes with good instruction. This is not the first one I've installed. If you've been to our channel or our site before, you'll know that. Would I recommend this for the 2017 and up R6? Absolutely. Just like the rest of the Eliminators, Yosh has done a great job. I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTrackGear.com.